for watching Numbskull News, and today we're getting back into the college realignment crap. Now, there's not a ton more breaking news of any kind, and there probably won't be for at least a few more weeks, so whatever. But there's a lot of rumors and crap like that going on. I'm going to tell you more than likely, just using some common sense, what's probably going to happen in the coming years, and see if that crap works out. Well, starting with the Pac-12, they're going to lose at least 2 to 4 schools here the next couple of weeks. Now, there's a lot of talk. Colorado and Utah want out of there. Arizona wants out of there. And by proxy, Arizona State, even though I haven't really heard jack about them, they're kind of, it seems like they're keeping things a little closer to the vest. Anyway, Oregon and Washington are kind of holding the whole damn thing hostage, the Pac-12. And they want an uneven revenue split in order to stay. They're coming to the realization that getting into the Big Ten is going to take a very long time, if not impossible. And frankly, it seems like they think they're too good for the Big 12. Okay, fine. But in order to stay in the Pac-12, they got to make some money. They can't just take $25 million a year, which is the rumored amount from ESPN is going to be offering. So what do they do? Everyone's talking about San Diego State, Boise State, UNLV, maybe SMU, and bring those into the Pac-12, and that can work. I was thinking maybe a full merger with the Mountain West, but that's probably too many mouths to feed, and a lot of mouths that don't make any money. So that probably won't work. So you'll probably take the absolute best of the Mountain West that they have. You know, Colorado State, no one thinks about them, but, you know, they're not horrible in football. They're probably better than Colorado. And Utah State has a team. So there's that. So yeah, they'll probably fill in with those teams and do an uneven split. The key is, can they get ESPN up to $350 million a year? That would make it easier for Oregon and Washington to get like $60 million a year. That's probably their goal. Can we get 60 while we're in this suck-ass conference? Can we get 60 million out of it a year? And, you know, it's possible, you know, with that new look Pac-12 with the Mountain West schools and SMU, could they take that package and take it to Apple or Amazon and say, you know, look, y'all are getting into sports. You probably want to get into college sports. This is a nice little entry level in. It's not going to cost you a ton. And then whatever offer they get, they can take it back to ESPN and say, hey, you offered $250. How about $350? You know, Amazon's going to give us $3. How about you give us $350 and we sign right now? Possibly. And if that happens, then, you know, Oregon and Washington will probably stay, get that uneven split. The teams that have a big problem with that uneven split, in which I totally understand that, coming from Big 12 country and Texas and OU being little assholes all the time, you probably don't want to be in that situation. You'd rather be in the Big 12 where they are preaching even revenue distribution. That's what the Big 12 is all about. No one's going to get more. No one's going to get less. Everyone's going to get the same. And that is one way that the Pac-12 can survive for a while. I made it, my last video was that the Pac-12 is dead. I still think they are. But they can drag this damn corpse around for a while, right? And get like some kind of heartbeat with a dead brain. Sure. You know, a brain dead Pac-12. That can happen. Why is it still dead? Well, here's the thing, all right? The SEC and the Big Ten, they're both good with 16 teams. They're going to go forward with 16. The Big Ten, they're going to do their negotiations with Fox based on the 16 they have, which is more than enough to get over $1 billion worth of revenue. Now, anytime Notre Dame wants to join the Big Ten, they're going to take them. And then they'll take one team to pair with them, whether that's Stanford, whether that's Washington, possibly Oregon. But I'm pretty adamant on what Notre Dame is going to do is use the Big Ten for leverage with NBC so they can get the max dollars there and stay independent. That's what they're going to do. But years down the road, when the ACC contract is finally going to come up, because I don't think Clemson and Florida State are going to pay an exorbitant amount of money to get out of that conference right now. They, you know, Texas and OU didn't, even though they can write the check tomorrow to get out of the Big 12. They're just going to ride it out for a while. Now, 10 or 15 years is a long time. I understand that. But ESPN is trying to renegotiate that contract. Maybe they stick, maybe if they lessen it from 15 years to 8 years, they may stick around if they can get more money. Chances are they may see the end of that contract. But eventually, Clemson, Florida State, they're gone. They're going to the SEC. There's no question about it. A lot of people are talking, Miami, the SEC doesn't want them. For whatever reasons, don't know. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. We'll see when it gets there. But let's say they don't want them. Does the Big Ten want them? Maybe. Because if you're the Big Ten, who would you rather have? Would you rather have Miami and Virginia or Miami and UNC? Or would you rather go and snatch up Oregon and Washington? If you're going to have USC and UCLA, it kind of makes sense to bring in Oregon and Washington. All right, that's 2 less across the country road trips for USC and UCLA. And that would be 2 less for Oregon and Washington. So it kind of works out. Nothing against Miami and Virginia, but I don't know that they're worth any more money than Oregon and Washington are. That would also mean the ACC survives. They just don't have the 2 biggest teams, but they still have Miami. They still have Virginia, UNC, Duke for basketball. And, Louisville's good sometimes. Things like that. It's still a viable conference. It's not, your big power conference anymore, but, it's something. At that point, do I think Oregon and Washington get into the Big Ten somewhere 5, 10, 15 years down the road? Probably. It just makes sense, especially if Notre Dame's just not going to do it. And when you really look at, okay, if we can't get Clemson or Florida State, the 2 big dogs in the ACC, Miami's a nice program to have, but is it really any better than Oregon? Probably not. Is Virginia really any better than Washington? Probably not. And like I said, you have that's 2 schools to match up with USC and UCLA. Makes it easier on their travel. And that's 2 more big time markets out on the West Coast you now get to absorb into the Big Ten. And at that point, the Pac-12 is basically, it's basically the Mountain West Conference. It's worth nothing when your big schools in that conference are Stanford and Oregon State and Washington State. You really don't have a power conference anymore. So that's gone. So life support it is until they pull the plug. Until Oregon and Washington pull the plug. And eventually they will. Where does that leave the Big 12? That leaves the Big 12 more than likely with 16 teams. The guys they have now, the 4 coming in next year, and then the Arizona schools, Utah, and Colorado. I do believe that's going to happen. I don't see a way that it doesn't. Not with Oregon and Washington pissing everybody off. So those 4 schools have options, so they're going to utilize that option. Now, what is that going to mean for the Big 12? That's going to help them secure a better TV deal. Now, it's not going to be anything crazy, but can you get a 16-team Big 12, at least that 16? Can you get them to $50 million a school? I think you can. Maybe a little more. Who knows? There's a lot of talk with NBC being interested, pairing them with Notre Dame. That's a possibility. The CBS doesn't want to completely be shut out of the college football market. Maybe they want to get in there. Then you have streaming services that want to get in. So there's going to be competition for the Big 12, serious competition. And just in case you want to poo-poo, like, oh, really, Apple? You're going to put all your eggs in the Apple basket? Well, think about it. Apple is worth 10 times what Disney's worth. Just think of that number. And they just paid, way overpaid for Major League Soccer. They overpaid for that. They've been getting more and more into the sports space. They realize live sports is money. That's viewers, that's subscribers. That's what they want. They're trying to build that sucker. And I'm not saying the Big 12 should go for it. However, they did talk about being hipper and cooler. And what's the hip thing now? It's streaming. Not having an antenna on your house, getting all your terrestrial stations. It's streaming, which you can get all your terrestrial stations through there. So if you got Apple TV, you can still watch Big Ten on Fox. You can still watch ESPN. It can also be the exclusive home of the Big 12. and watch all the Big 12 games there. So if you're a Big 12 fan, makes sense. In BYU, they got a lot of fans. Oklahoma State, that's a lot of fans. Cincinnati, a lot of fans. UCF, that's a lot of damn fans. So that's roughly it. I mean, we know the media, they only give a damn when the SEC farts or the Big Ten takes a shit. That's all they care about, right? But there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things to this realignment that's going to happen that's really not going to involve the two big conferences that much. The other three, that's when you can get more movement. In the Big 12, they're going to move in the next couple of weeks, which will cause the Pac-12 to have to restock, if you will, with Mountain West schools, possibly SMU. And when the ACC finally does lose Clemson and Florida State, and it will eventually, they'll restock from teams out there. Maybe Memphis, maybe South Florida, who knows. But they'll restock. They'll be a lesser conference, but they still won't be bad. And whenever all the dust settles, the Big 12 will be the third biggest conference. Just will. It'll have the better brands. I mean, outside of Miami, I mean, what other conference has something more than that? I mean, Virginia, UNC, I don't know. I mean, yeah, you got UNC, you got Duke, okay, we got Kansas, we got Arizona. Those are badass basketball brands too. The way this whole thing has worked out, I mean, really it left the Big 12 in the catbird seat because they were the first ones to get hit with realignment with Texas and OU leaving. They were, so they were the first people that get to act and do what they need to do for survival. And what ultimately is going to kill the Pac-12 is just that California market. Once USC and UCLA is gone, you can't replace it. Regardless of what teams you bring in, San Diego State or whomever, you're not ever going to really be able to replace that. And unfortunately, that whole conference is based off of large markets. And without the second biggest market in the entirety of the U.S., forget it. The Big 12, they're not based on markets. They don't have to have a specific market in order to survive. Pac-12 does. Either way, the Big 12 is here to stay. They'll be the third most powerful conference, period. And that's all I got on this crap for right now. I mean, when some big news breaks or schools leave for somewhere else, actual realignment happens, I'll make another video about it. Until then, I'm going to do some other crap. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with some of that other crap later. Bye.